Alright, so I just took apart the CCP pistol, and one thing I found quite unique about this particular ARES is this is definitely a front-wired ARES gun. However, they use this nice barrel nut to thread onto the lower receiver, and you could see that this item has 4 little prong areas to unscrew it, but to be honest, there's really no tool that the average user would have. If you're an AR-15 fanatic, you actually would have an AR-15 barrel wrench, and you could use that wrench to unlock the barrel nut. Now, of course, when I unlocked it with the wrench, it wasn't on too tight, so you probably could use, if you're careful enough, a screwdriver and trying to hit it loose a little bit. But given that this looks pretty proprietary, I would try and get an AR-15 barrel nut wrench first, since that came off pretty easy. But that was probably the only thing that stood out when I was taking it apart. It's a front wired ARES EFCS. So like typical ARES, I could see already, looked at it already. Typical, the air nozzle, they're same old ones, so that one definitely leaks air. So like I recommended before, I use the SHS or Matrix air nozzle because that little O-ring to help seal it better. And by sealing, what I'm going to do is use a M100 spring, and that will lessen the tension on the box, and also doesn't make such a loud pop every time it fires. But also what I noted before is ARES came out with these new spring guides for their it's ball bearing spring guides, and I recommend that highly because for some reason, I think it's because of the newer dimensions of the box. If you try to use an M100 spring, it'll fire, but there might be because it's a little bit looser, or not looser, but because the box is a little bit longer, makes the spring tension just a little bit less. It makes the auto fire drop about 40 to 50 FPS when you go full auto. So, but with the new spring guides, what it does is, let me see if I can grab one. I know I mentioned it on the long spring guide, but this is a short one. The CC pistols use the ARES Amoeba short spring guides, but with the ball bearing ones is that they add a little bit extra metal in the ball bearing, so it kind of brings up the spring, the washer up a little bit, and the ball bearing will be here, so it closes in that small little gap with the M100 springs, so it'll kind of counteract most of your FPS loss when you go full auto. You probably still lose about 20, but not so bad. But that's probably what I'm going to do for this gun. I need to get, what I highly recommend for most of the Amoeba series is get that spring guide. So you could use an M100 spring. So like I said, it doesn't get wonky or you lose a lot of FPS when you go full auto. So I was able to correct that on my other ARES Amoeba 008. Had a problem using an M100 spring, and when I went full auto I'd lose like a good 40-45 FPS, but going with the new aftermarket spring guide, that small little gap pretty much tightened up the M100 spring, so it shoots a lot more consistent on full auto, or actually it doesn't have that huge FPS loss. But that's just a side note thing. So what I'm going to do with this one is, like I said, change the nozzle, so I could use an M100. ARES typically looks like, you know, they always do that cookie cutter shimming job on their gearbox, so it's always tight. I already checked the bevel, tried playing with the bevel axle and the sector axle. Definitely it's pretty tight, so, and it's pretty much confirming why this gun is running a little bit hot. The battery was getting a little bit warm when I was test firing it, so pretty much I expected. The motor's always weak. They have really tight shimming jobs. So it really, how you say, definitely ARES can make it much more efficient, but definitely I like their EFCS system. So it's really nice and compact in there with the MOSFET. So big plus with the small micro switch. So I'll take it apart. I'll show you guys later. I'll do a quick shim job. I'm not going to go into quite detail on it, and put in an air nozzle for it.